All right, ladies and gents, 6.3, lesson 3, we are representing mixed numbers with units of tens, ones, and tenths with number discs on the number line and an expanded form. So the first thing you're going to do is we're going to use the idea of discs, but they're not going to be worth ones, tens, and hundreds. They're going to be worth tenths. So that's what we're dealing with right now. So what I'd like you to do is I would like you to draw 21 units of 1/10. 21 units of 1/10. We'll put them in groups of 5. Groups of 5. So here's how it would look. The first group, 1/10, 1/10, 1/10, 1/10, 1/10. That's 5 of them. See how that's a group of 5? Start your next group below. Make sure you have 21. Pause while you do this. Here's what yours should look like. I have 5, 10, 15, 20, 21. So what we're going to do now is we're going to see if we can group them into smaller groups. Bundle some so that they are worth the same thing. Does anybody think they can group these tenths? Well, hopefully you said 10 tenths equals 1 whole. 10 tenths equals 1 whole. And then you have 1/10 left. So if I put that together, 1 plus 1 plus 1/10, I would have 2 and 1/10. Go ahead and do that. So what I did is I bundled 10 tenths to make a whole, just like we used to do on our place value charts, the same thing. Now, here's a question for you. If I want to know what I need to add to this to get to 3 wholes, what would I do? What would I do? How much would I have to add to get to 3 wholes? Well, you could count up by tenths, so you could say 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, 6/10, 7/10, 8/10, 9/10, plus 1/10 equals 3 wholes. So you could have drawn 9 more of these to make that bundle of 10. So it'd be 0.9 or 9/10. If you add those two together. If we add them up like this, looks like that. Or we could have gone backwards and said 3/10 minus 2 and 1/10 and just borrowed like we normally do. If I borrow from my 1, that equals 10 tenths. We know it does. 10 minus 1 is 9. 2 minus 2 is 0. 0.9. That's my difference. If I show you this place value disc, what is it worth? What is the value of it? Well, it's worth 1/10. What if I show you 4 of them? What are they worth? Well, they're worth 4 tens or 40, right? So if I show you in a multiplication sentence, if I put this into a multiplication sentence, how many groups do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4. And what's in each group? 10, 10, 10, 10. So it'd be 4 times 10 equals 40. What if I showed you this? What is the value of these 2 ones discs? Hopefully you said 2 because it's worth 2 ones. So if I want to write it as a multiplication sentence, how many groups do I have? 1, 2 groups. And what's in each group? 1. And we know that 2 times 1 equals 2. Now what if I wanted to know what they were combined? Well, I could have just written it out like this. 4 times 10 plus 2 times 1 equals, solve, and you get 42. Imagine that I then added, let's see here, let's get a little bit narrower. Let's imagine that I added tenths discs. let's say I put in, let's make them discs, not brackets. Say I put in 3. How could I write a multiplication sentence to represent that? Go ahead and pause while you do that. If you said there were 3 groups, you are right. And they are 3 groups of 1/10. So it would look like this. If you had a hard time getting that, because it's the decimal, you could have also thought of it this way. 3 times 1/10 equals 3/10. 3 times 1/10 equals 3/10. So imagine that I wanted to add that on to this mess right here. So let's pretend that I added it on, plus 3 times 0.1. So I have 42 plus 3/10, which equals 42 and 3/10. That's how it would look. That's a whole lot of work. But it shows you how I can break down whole numbers and decimals. Imagine you have this laid out in front of you. How would I write multiplication sentences underneath to figure out what the total was? I could just count, yes, 10, 20, 21, but I want to actually write out the multiplication sentences to represent what is in front of me. I'll do the first one for you, and then I want you to do the rest on your own. How many 10s do I have here? How many groups? I have 1 group, 2 group. So it'd be 2 times, what's in each group? 10. Plus, go ahead and break down your 1s and your 10ths to see if you can get a final answer. Go ahead and pause while you do that. Here's what you should have gotten for your 1s, and here's what you should have gotten for your 10ths. I did 5 times 1/10, or fraction form 5 times 1/10. If you've already solved it, great. Give me a second. I'm going to solve it now. 2 times 10 is 20, plus 3 times 1 is 3, plus 5 times 1/10 is 5/10. So it looks like that. If I add them all together, I get 23 and 5/10. 23 wholes plus 0 wholes and 5/10. All right, go ahead and pull out your number line template. This template is going to be in your place value chart folders, so you're going to be using a whiteboard marker and eraser. So if you don't have it yet, go ahead and grab it. What we're going to do is we're going to look at this, and we are going to mark our beginning point as 0, and we're going to go up to 4. So if I start here at 0, and here is 4, I lied. We're going to go 0 to 3, not 4. Sorry about that. And we're going to fill in our holes in the middle. What we're going to do now is we're going to think about what is each of these lines worth. Well, they're each worth a 1/10, because we know there are 10 tenths in a whole. So if I asked you to go ahead and partition or find me, so if I asked you to show me 1 6/10, where would you go? Well, it wouldn't be between 0 and 1. And it wouldn't be between 2 and 3, because it's only a little past 1, or some past 1. 1 6/10. So I look here and I say, okay, 1, 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, 6/10. So that would be 1 6/10. So that's my decimal form. This is decimal. Now, if I wanted to do a mixed number form, it would be 1 6/10. If I wanted to expand it out into expanded form, fraction or decimal, it may look like this. So expanded form would be 1 times 1, because I only have 1 whole, plus 6, I have 6/10, so 6 times 1/10. That might be how you would write it. Or you could do 6 times 1/10 that way. That's your expanded form. And that equals 1 6/10. 1.6. Now if I asked you, what do I need to get to the next whole? The next whole would be a 2. So how do I get to 2? What do I have to add? Well, you could say 1.6, or 1 6/10, 1 7/10, 1 8/10, 1 9/10, 2/10. It would take 4/10 to get me to my next whole. Decimal, mixed number, expanded form. I took this and I broke it down. I have 1 group of 1, and I have 6 group of tenths. You notice this is a unit fraction. And this is how many I would take to get to the next. Let's imagine I wanted to do 32 5/10. So what I'd like you to do is I would like you to figure out how to lay out 32 5/10. You notice here we went from 0 to 3, but we only needed the 1 6/10. So you're going to go from something to something else, but 32 is your whole. It has to be in there somewhere. I'd suggest maybe putting it here. Fill your other holes in. Go ahead and plot that decimal. So if you plotted it, you should be right about dead center, 32 5/10. So what would the mixed number be? Pause while you figure it out. That's what you should have had for your mixed number. Now if I expand it out, remember when we expand every single piece. So we'll do our tens first, then our ones, then our tenths. I'm going to break it down for you, but go ahead and expand it out. Tens, ones, tenths. Pause while you do it. So you probably got this, 3 tens. I have 3 groups of 10. 3 times 10 is 30. Then hopefully you got your ones. I had 2 ones, so I had 2 groups of 1, which equals 2. And then the 5/10, how many tenths do I have? Well, I have 5. So I have 5 times 1/10, which equals 5/10, which of course equals 32.5, or 32 5/10. So here's the big question. How do I get to the next whole? Well, the next whole would be 33. So 32 5/10, how do I get to 33? Well, you just can count up. 32 5/10, 32 6/10, 7/10, 8/10, 9/10, 33. So it took me 5/10 to get there. All right, guys, this is a super long video. Thanks for being patient. Go ahead and find a partner and do the problem set.